So you want to go into Arc Raiders alone? I'll be honest, I don't think I'd ever be the one saying this, but I was wrong. Completely wrong. Arc Raiders as a solo experience has climbed its way up to potentially being Game of the Year for me. And believe me, I didn't even see that coming. Back during the server slam, I bounced off this game hard. The hype didn't land, and whilst I could see the incredible work Embark has done, it just didn't click for me. I walked away kind of disappointed. I read every comment you left on my first video, and a lot of you said the same thing. I judged it too quickly. And you were right to a degree. If you haven't seen that, I'll leave a link up above. So when the full release dropped, I decided to swallow my pride, head back in, and try it properly, progression and all. And that's where everything shifted. The server slam had this chaotic energy, almost like, who cares, it's just temporary. No one was thinking about the progression, not everyone was playing with intent, and on reflection, I wasn't either. It created a weird disconnect. I didn't care about improving, or giving time to learn the game because nothing was going to carry over anyway. On reflection, that was a huge part of why the whole thing fell flat. With the full release, you can see what the game's trying to be. Before we dig in further, a quick catch up for anyone who didn't see the initial Arc Raiders review. No worries if you missed it. This one stands on its own. Arc Raiders is a polished extraction shooter with an incredible sense of place. The world design, the atmosphere, the audioscaping is all top tier. The Rust Belt is incredible. Each map has its own personality, and honestly some of the best environments I've played in all year. Gunplay feels weighty, and the shots sound beefy. The encounters are actually fun too, and the whole thing just oozes style. Even during the beta it performed well, and only a few minor bugs, and the odd update hiccup. My issue back then wasn't the presentation, it was the long-term hook. I found the core loop fun, but once I stepped away, I didn't feel the itch to jump back in. I gave it a solid 3 out of 5. Great in the moment, but thin once you zoom out. Now, where does it land for me on full release? The audio, the visual, and the atmosphere, they're all still excellent. But the moment you approach the game as a solo by choice, everything changes. Playing solo and playing in squads feels like two different games entirely, and the balance of PvPvE suddenly becomes far more interesting when it's just you against the world. And that's the angle of today's video. What Arc Raiders becomes when you load in alone for the first time. What works, what doesn't, and why. At least for me, the solo experience completely transforms this game. Jumping into Arc Raiders solo works perfectly. You can queue up as a lone player, no fuss, no workarounds, no being forced to matchmake into random squads. The game runs on a 1 to 3 player squad system, and matchmaking tries its best to place you against similar size groups. If you're solo, its aim is to drop you in lobbies with other solo players. And throughout my whole time roaming the Rust Belt, that's exactly what I found. And because you mostly run into other solo players, you get this strange little social dynamic. Every now and again you'll clock someone running across the scrapyard or looting across the way, and you both have this moment of, are we cool? You can have these unspoken and temporary truces, but there's always a flicker of doubt. Will it break? Will they break? Will you? Even if nothing happens, that adds a layer of tension that squads doesn't have. It's all about reading the moment and trusting your gut. I tried to play aggressively, but it didn't sit well with me. I just felt bad on the one occasion that I downed someone, but equally frustrated when someone just leathered me. Mechanically, the rules are the same when you're solo or running with friends. If you die out there, whatever isn't tucked away in your safe pocket is gone. Extractors get your body and your loot, whilst you head back to Speranza with nothing but a bruised ego. That risk versus reward loop is the spine of every extraction shooter, and Arc Raiders is no different. And that's the core of Arc Raiders as a solo player. You're not fighting against the game's system to play alone, trying to solo squads. It actively allows it, and it lets that tension build in a way that makes the world feel unpredictable and fun. It's the foundation that the rest of the experience is built on. And once you understand how the flow of solos works, the rest of the game starts to take a very different shape. And what's the same shape is that like and subscribe button. If you're enjoying this video so far, smash that like button and consider subbing to the channel. Thank you! The thing that surprised me most about going solo in Arc Raiders is how much quieter the game becomes. Not empty, just quieter in a way that actually enhances the experience. No squad chattering, firing, sprinting around, or accidentally aggroing half the Rust Belt. You get this slower, stealthier rhythm. You choose your engagements. You can slip through scrap piles unnoticed. You avoid fights you don't want and pick the ones you do. That freedom is something the game doesn't really advertise, but it's one of its best qualities, even if it works against you sometimes. And that leads me into the real magic that Arc Raiders pulls off for a solo player. The balance. The mix of PvP and PvE finally finds its pressure point. There's enough AI threat that you're thinking, listening, always weighing risk versus reward. It's a challenge, but you're not constantly being steamrolled by the AI. And then you add in the real players, those unpredictable sparks in the distance, and it hits this sweet spot. Just enough tension to keep the heart rate up, and just calm enough to actually let you enjoy the world of Arc Raiders. The story beats, the looting, and the weird interactions with the players that squads tends to bulldoze right through. This balance is what keeps dragging me back in for one more run. Time is precious. I don't want to spend my limited gaming hours losing everything over and over, rebuilding every night like it's a second job. But at the same time, winning non-stop with fully stacked gear gets boring fast. That's why Arc Raiders works in solos. You're rewarded for good decisions, punished for bad ones, and you never feel completely safe. It's the same reason a purely PvE mode wouldn't work. I was talking to a mate about this. We got onto Sea of Thieves. They nailed that chilled, atmospheric vibe that still managed to keep you on edge. That edge vanished when the PvE only mode rolled in. Without real players in the mix, the world loses its bite. And that game was so much fun chilling on your sloop sailing the high seas. But one eye on the horizon just in case you're being followed. Playing solo in Arc Raiders means you move at your own pace. No herding teammates, no detours because someone else needs a quest item. No arguments about when to extract. It's your run, your route, your mistakes, and more importantly, your victories. When I played duos, the experience shifted massively. Out of the whole session, one of the squads we bumped into were great, genuinely helpful, and most importantly, didn't lay siege. Then every other squad we run into that night nearly wiped us, and that is thrilling in its own right, just not what I want the whole extraction shooter experience to be like. Those highs and lows feel more controlled when you're out there alone. Even the solo community have found its own tone. Most solo players I bumped into were surprisingly chill, communicative, sportive, and occasionally weird in the best ways. There was a guy role-playing as Super Mario for no good reason, which is bizarre and hilarious in its own right, until they tried to take me out right before exfil. But still, memorable. You get these strange little human moments that squads rarely creates. It's shoot first, ask questions later. All of this makes the game seriously welcoming for solo players with limited time. If you only have half an hour in the evening, a single run fits neatly into that. You can drop in, explore at your own pace, have a couple tense encounters, extract, upgrade something, and log off feeling satisfied. Now, solos isn't perfect. The biggest weakness is extremely simple. You're alone. There will be instances where you see movement and suddenly you're in a firefight, and a third party rocks up and downs you. Unless someone with a defib takes pity on you, that's your run gone. No backup to drag you into cover or grab your loot. No last second revive. No one to bail you out when you get overrun by the Ark. When you die, your loot dies with you. Matchmaking can potentially throw complications into. The system tries to match solos with solos, but my worry if the player count does eventually drop, you can potentially end up in a lobby with duos or trios. We notice that more when playing as a duo. Suddenly ran into a full squad. At the moment, the player base seems healthy enough that pure solo lobbies are common, but the risk is always there. When it happens, it will change the balance. Still, taking everything together, the strengths outweigh the frustrations. It's all that tension, atmosphere, and actual enjoyment. It all seems to click into place when you're alone on the Rust Belt. It becomes a game I actually find fun. If you're jumping into Arc Raiders solo for the first time, the biggest piece of advice I can give you is simple: stay switched on. The game rewards awareness more than anything. Good audio is basically a sixth sense out there. So grab a decent pair of headphones and pay attention to what the world is telling you. Footsteps, drones, distant gunfire, it all matters. Audio has more or less been solid for me since launch. Far more reliable than the beta. Back then I had moments where someone zipped behind me in the research and admin building, and I heard nothing, which is super frustrating. Since release, I haven't had any major issues, but your mileage might vary. So let me know in the comments what issues or bugs you have encountered. The solo community helps too. It's calmer than you'd expect. Most players I've run into aren't instantly trigger happy, unless you're on Stella Mortis. That place is a PvP arena. Everywhere else people tend to be more communicative, a bit more human. Even if some of them, like our good friend Super Mario, decided to smile in your face and then stab you in the back right before extraction. Just assume every player is running their own agenda, and yours isn't their priority. Also, use your safe pocket wisely. That one piece of loot that you're not willing to lose, tuck it away. And don't sleep on the free loadout. If you've got quests that you want to clear without risking new gear, or if you're like me, still learning some of the maps, it takes the pressure off. Think of it as a way of experimenting without worrying that you're going to have to start all over again. And then there's the big mindset shift. Treat every run as unpredictable as the last. Arc Raiders isn't a campaign. When you're alone, it's still PvPvE, and the game never forgets that. You might meet someone chill and end up helping each other with objectives, or you might get domed even after they've said, friendly. It's all part of the loop. Expect the unexpected. It's chaos, and those strange little micro stories only happen with real players. The only genuine downside to solo play, and this loops back to the strengths we talked about earlier, is that gaming is often best when shared with mates. Arc Raiders at its core is a fantastic co-op game, the kind that can create brilliant, chaotic memories when things go horribly wrong, or perfectly right. Going solo means giving some of that up, but the trade-off is a tighter, more deliberate version of the same world. Sometimes that feels tailored and atmospheric. It's your personal journey. And if you can enjoy both sides of that coin, Ark Raiders suddenly becomes a very easy game to slot into your rotation. So here we are. After everything I said during the open beta, I can hold my hands up and admit I was wrong. Ark Raiders as a solo experience has honestly impressed me. The game feels completely different when you strip away the noise of squads and just go in on your own terms. You get these tense and genuinely memorable interactions with other players. You get space to explore, to chase quests at your own pace, to appreciate the little bits of world building the game sprinkles around the Rust Belt. And yeah, there's always a chance someone will shout friendly and then tears you a new one. That unpredictability is part of the thrill. It adds flavour to every run. The moment you jump in with the squad, everything shifts. The balance shifts. The atmosphere thins out, and the game leans heavily into the PvP, and it loses the charm that makes the solo experience shine. If your whole plan is to roll in as a trio and chase nothing but firefights, great, that lane is open to you. It's just not what I want from an extraction shooter. I want that blend of tension and exploration, of risk and discovery, and solo play nails that blend in a way squads just doesn't. There are people who might struggle with this though. If you hate losing gear, if unpredictability stresses you out, if you want guaranteed safety or you need backup to enjoy yourself, Ark Raiders won't magically fix this. Death hits harder when you're alone, and sometimes you'll lose everything in a single mistake. But for players who enjoy tension, who like dipping into games in short bursts, or have limited gaming windows in the evenings, the 30-minute runs make this incredibly easy to slot into your week. And because the two experiences feel so wildly different, I'm updating my rating from the original review, but I'm splitting it in half. As a reminder, I gave the game a 3 out of 5 overall. As a squad experience, it's a 2 out of 5 for me. It turns into a PvP race that steamrolls the atmosphere and pushes the PvP into the background. But as a solo, it's a 1 out of 5 for me. No, I'm just kidding. It's a full 5 out of 5 for me. This is where the game comes alive. The balance between fighting Ark, exploring the world, and those unpredictable human encounters is exactly what I'm looking for in this game. It's tense without being exhausting, and it's varied enough without feeling overwhelming. So, would I recommend Ark Raiders as a solo player? Absolutely. If you want something chilled, but still sharp around the edges, something that lets you explore and breathe while keeping you on your toes, this is it. If you want pure PvP chaos, there's squads, and there are other games out there screaming your name. I hear Battlefield is having a bit of a resurgence. And that's my updated review of Ark Raiders. So let me know what you think, especially if you disagree. I love hearing different perspectives, and I'm genuinely curious how other players read the solo versus squad split. I'll definitely be sticking with this game for now, which is something I never expected to say after the server slam. It's been a pleasant surprise, and I'm glad I gave it another shot. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe. It helps our YouTube overlords recognize this video as at least half decent. If you've got any wild solo stories, send them my way. They always make my day. Catch you in the next one.